Welcome back to the Kingdom Disciples channel with Chaplain Arnold Brown. In our past 2 sessions, Chaplain Arnold has been teaching from the book of Habakkuk. In the first session, he provided us with a historical overview of the book's content. Last session, in chapter 1, he took us on a journey. In that session, the prophet Habakkuk challenged God's methods during this period. Habakkuk could not understand why God would allow the depraved Babylonians, those ruthless and impetuous people, to attack Judah. This session, Chaplain Arnold will explore chapter 2, specifically focusing on its opening. The prophet has now positioned himself in the watchtower to hear what God is about to speak to him. So, if you haven't already, please gather your Bible and journaling materials. And let's tag along with Chaplain Arnold as he takes us into chapter 2. I will see you at the end of this chapter.
Last session, we ended chapter 1 with the prophet Habakkuk wrestling with God's method of judgment. And he questions how a holy God can use such a cruel nation as Babylon to correct Judah. Finally, he tells God that the Babylonians will be unsympathetic toward Judah. In this session, we will focus on chapter 2 of the book of Habakkuk. The prophet Habakkuk positions himself on the watchtower to await a response from God. The Lord answers, "Write the vision plainly so a runner can read it. It's set for an appointed time. Wait for it. It will surely arrive without delay." God then draws a stark contrast. The proud are morally corrupt at heart. However, the righteous will live by faith. A taunt song follows with 5 woes against the Babylon-like oppressor. Those who pile up wealth through extortion will themselves be plundered. Those who construct secure houses through unjust means will witness the very stones and beams cry out against them. Those who establish cities through bloodshed do so in vain. This means that the earth will be filled with the knowledge of the glory of the Lord, just as waters cover the sea. Those who intoxicate and shame others, they will drink from the Lord's own cup of judgment and be exposed. The violence inflicted upon creation, specifically Lebanon and its creatures, will ultimately return to those who perpetrate it. Finally, idol makers are mocked because lifeless images cannot teach or save. While the Lord is in his holy temple, let all the earth keep silence before him. The chapter moves from waiting to writing, from pride to faith, and from human oppression to God's certain universe-wide justice. After pouring out his confusion in chapter 1, Habakkuk climbs the watchtower, not to escape the world, but to wait on God within it. Chapter 2 begins with a posture of faith. The prophet positions himself with his eyes open and heart ready, anticipating both correction and clarity. God answers by commanding him to write the vision plainly so it can be carried far and understood quickly. The message has an appointed time. It will not lie, even if it seems slow. In that waiting tension comes the chapter's heartbeat. The righteous will live by faith. This single line draws a sharp contrast with the proud, whose inner life is crooked and whose appetite, like Sheol, never has enough. From there, the Lord unveils a taunt song of 5 woes against the Babylon-like oppressor. Each woe reverses injustice. Plunderers are plundered. Fortress builders are exposed. Cities built on blood crumble. Shamers drink their shame. And idols are unmasked as mute and powerless. Over against human ambition stands a larger horizon. The earth will be filled with the knowledge of the glory of the Lord as the waters cover the sea. The chapter closes in holy hush. The Lord is in his holy temple. Let all the earth remain silent in his presence. Habakkuk 2 invites us to live faithfully between promise and fulfillment, writing what God says, waiting for His timing, resisting the seduction of power, and worshiping the God whose justice is certain and whose glory will fill the world. Chapter 2, verses 1 through 3 could be subtitled, Watch, Write, and Wait. Verse 1 reads, I will stand upon my watch and set me upon the tower, and will watch to see what He will say to me, and what I shall answer when I am reproved. Verse 2 reads, And the Lord said, Write the vision clearly on tablets, so that anyone who reads it can understand and act upon it. Verse 3 reads, The vision is still scheduled for a specific time. Ultimately, the promise will be fulfilled and will not be proven false. Wait for it, even if it appears to be taking longer, as it will undoubtedly arrive on time. The prophet is seen here as a sentry, vigilantly postured and expecting correction as well as instruction. Here, he is awaiting revelation from God. In verse 2, the prophet is instructed by God to write the things that He will reveal to him on tablets and make it plain for immediate broadcast. In verse 3, God tells the prophet that the vision is for an appointed time. The vision hastens to its purpose. Truth and certainty contribute to the delay, while faith's task involves patiently waiting. Chapter 2, verses 4 through 5 could be subtitled Pride versus Faith and Insatiable Appetite. Verse 4 reads, Behold, his soul which is lifted up is not upright in him, but the just shall live by his faith. Verse 5 reads, Yea, also, because he transgressed by wine, a proud man who does not keep at home, and who enlarged his desire as hell and death, and cannot be satisfied, but gathered unto him all nations, and heaped unto him all people. In verse 4, the puffed up soul is not honest. By contrast, the righteous shall live by their faith, trust, and steadfast fidelity. In verse 5, inebriating arrogance, referring to wine and wealth, and just like hell, never has enough gathering nations to himself. Chapter 2, verses 6 through 20 could be titled, The Five Woes, Poetic Justice Against the Authoritarian. Verse 6 says, Shall not all these take up a parable against him, and a taunting proverb against him, and say, Woe to him that increases that which is not his, and to him that laded himself with thick clay. Verse 7 says, Shall they not rise suddenly that shall bite thee, and awake that shall vex thee, and thou shalt be for booties unto them. Verse 8 states, Because thou hast spoiled many nations, all the remnants of the people shall spoil you, because of men's blood, and for the violence of the land, of the city, and of all that dwell therein. Verse 9 reads, Woe to him that desires an evil covetousness to his house, so that he may set his nest on high, that he may be delivered from the power of evil. Verse 10 proclaims, Thou hast brought shame to thy house by cutting off many people, and hast sinned against thy soul. Verse 11 declares, For the stone shall cry out of the wall, and the beam out of the timber shall answer it. Verse 12 warns, Woe to him that builds a town with blood, and establishes a city of iniquity. Verse 13 asks, Behold, is it not of the Lord of hosts that the people shall labor in the very fire, and shall the people weary themselves for mere vanity? In verses 6 through 8, the first woe highlights the destructive consequences of predatory plunder. Victims rise up, plunderers are plundered, and violence boomerangs against the oppressor. In verses 9 through 11, the second woe highlights those who dishonestly accumulate wealth for their own houses and rely on their safety and security. In verses 12 through 13, the third woe condemns those who built cities with bloodshed at the expense of others and founded communities through injustice. Verses 14 through 17, the fourth woe, focus on those who exploit others for personal gain and perpetuate suffering, warning that such actions will ultimately bring disgrace and ruin upon themselves. Here, the prophet emphasizes that the knowledge of the Lord's glory will fill the earth, contrasting human corruption with divine justice. Finally, verses 18 through 20, the fifth woe, denounce idolatry, calling out the futility of trusting in lifeless objects made by human hands. This section reinforces that the Lord alone is worthy of reverence, and all the earth should remain silent before him. Here are a few crucial terms and insights from Habakkuk 2. In verse 4, faith and faithfulness are covenantal steadfastness expressed as trusting loyalty. In verse 2, the tablets serve as a public posting that promotes communal memory and obedience. In verse 3, appointed time, a divine schedule ensures certainty without immediacy. In verse 17, environmental ethics, judgment includes creation care accountability. This chapter also includes some noted theological mixtures. The structure transitions from waiting to writing to expressing woes, and finally to a worshipful silence. Life belongs to the faithful. Pride is considered an inner corruption that collapses in due time. Divine justice is delayed but certain and brings reversal. Measure for measure. Universal horizon is viewed as God's glory filling the world. Idols become silent in the presence of the enthroned Lord. Habakkuk 2 calls us to a distinctly classical Christian posture in an anxious age. Watch, write, wait, and walk by faith. Like the prophet on the watchtower, we reject despair and cynicism. Instead, we look for God's reply and make his vision plain, so it can be carried into neighborhoods, churches, and workplaces. God's purposes have an appointed time. Delay is not denial. And the line that anchors the chapter still anchors us. The just will live by faith. Faith here is not a momentary feeling, but a steady, loyal obedience while God's timing unfolds. The chapter's 5 woes unmask patterns that still tempt our world. Predatory gain, security built on exploitation, cities propped up by blood and lies, the shaming and use of others for advantage, and the worship of man-made powers, money, technology, and ideology, as if they could save. Believers are called to be an alternative people, to practice economic honesty, protect the vulnerable, pursue justice that heals communities and creation, and refuse any allegiance that competes with Christ. Over against the noise of boastful empires stands a larger promise. The earth will be filled with the knowledge of the glory of the Lord. That future guides our present. So, we end where the chapter ends, in reverent silence before the Lord. From that silence we rise to live faithfully, writing the vision in clear deeds, waiting with patient hope, and walking in daily trust. In a century enamored with power and immediacy, Habakkuk 2 summons the church to long obedience, humble worship, truthful witness, just action, and resilient hope until God's glory fills all things.
Thank you for visiting with us at the Kingdom Disciples channel. We hope that you were blessed by this teaching from Habakkuk Chapter 2. We invite you to join us in our next session, where Chaplain Arnold will be exploring the final chapter in the book of Habakkuk. You really don't want to miss this. So, until next time, always remember that the just shall live by his faith.